All right, let's dive in. How to lose 20 pounds and keep it off. Okay? First of all, the overarching theme here is sustainability, right? Because losing 20 pounds is one thing, and keeping it off is an entirely different thing, right? And I think most people are using strategies that will allow them to lose the 20 pounds if they restrict themselves enough. Like, most people can diet and exercise themselves and restrict themselves into losing weight. Some people can't as well, and that's a different problem. But a lot of people can actually lose the weight, but they really struggle to keep it off after because they use unsustainable approaches to get there, right? And so I want to walk through some of the common things that we see so that you can avoid these things so you don't make the same mistakes that so many other women make and mistakes that I made in the past too. So the the first common strategy that we see used all the time, like this is probably the most common one to lose weight, is keto. And keto is basically just really, really low carbohydrates, high fats, right? Now, there is nothing wrong with fats and there is nothing wrong with carbohydrates. That is not the problem. The problem is that eliminating entire food groups is really unsustainable for most people, right? And especially carbohydrates, because there's so many things that we eat that are carbohydrates, from your vegetables to your fruits, to things that you enjoy when you go out, rice, potatoes. Like there's a lot of other things in there that are healthy things for us that are important for our systems to function well and and support health. And when we eliminate those things, we end up losing a lot of those benefits. And carbohydrates are actually really, really important for hormonal production. And so, if you're a woman struggling to lose weight or struggling to keep it off, and it's a hormonal problem, restricting your carbohydrates is not a really good thing to do, right? Unless you're someone who has type 2 diabetes, and in that case, it might be a good idea. But in most cases, we are diminishing our hormones by restricting ourselves so much, right? And in addition to that, carbohydrates actually aid in us falling asleep. And so if you are if you're having no carbohydrates throughout the day, and because of that you're getting to sleep later or you're not getting into a deep sleep, we're also not going to replenish your hormones. And your hormones control your mood, your metabolism, they control everything, right? They're super critical to us. And when we don't have good hormonal production and good hormonal balance, then we're going to struggle to lose weight, but really we're going to struggle a lot to keep it off after you do, because you could probably push through that and restrict yourself enough to lose the weight. That's usually not the problem. The problem is keeping it off, right? So that's what keto is. That's the reason why we don't see that would work. And often people lose weight on keto really fast because carbohydrates also make us retain water. In other words, they hydrate us, right? So people think of water retention bad, hydration good. They're the same thing, right? And hydration is a good thing for us. Another reason why carbohydrates are important. Now, I'm not saying go overeat processed carbohydrates. I'm just saying we lose weight really quickly because we eliminate those carbohydrates and we lose water. We're not losing body fat any quicker by doing keto versus any other calorie deficit diet. Right? The second common strategy we see is fasting, and intermittent fasting specifically, right? And another way to think about intermittent fasting is time restricted feeding. We are only eating in a certain window of time during the day. Usually for most people that's an 8-hour window that they give themselves to eat and 16 hours to fast, right? The problem is for women, fasting over 12 hours can also cause dysregulation in the female hormones, in estrogen, progesterone, those kind of things. And when we throw off that, we throw off the menstrual cycle and we throw off everything, right? The menstrual cycle is an incredibly important system for women. And so we don't want to do long periods of fasting for women because we cause all these hormonal dysregulations that can lead to a lot of problems, including struggles losing weight, including hair loss, decreased mood, like a lot of things, right? Things that are not good, weak nails, right? In addition to that, intermittent fasting is really hard to stick to if you're like going to events outside of your eating window, right? Like how if you fast from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. but you're going to a dinner with friends, like that makes it really hard, right? What are you gonna do? And same thing happens with breakfast or lunch or work events. Like it's really hard to stick to and actually stick to that eating window. In addition to that, intermittent fasting causes women not to eat enough protein because you only get 2 real meals to eat. You have a small window. And how are you going to get zero point 0.8 grams to 1 gram per pound of body weight of protein if you don't have enough time to do that. It's really hard to get a lot of protein in 2 meals, right? If you're someone who weighs 150 pounds, then your goal of protein should be 130 to 150 grams, and you only have 2 meals to do that. That's a lot of protein at each meal, and you're going to feel really full and not good, bloated. You're going to have a hard time digesting it. So that's another reason. And that having enough protein supports our metabolism and our muscle mass and bone density. And so if we aren't doing those things, if we aren't getting enough protein in, if we're losing muscle mass, if we're losing bone density because we're fasting, we're going to weaken our metabolism and make it hard to lose weight and really hard to keep it off. Okay, that's number 2. Number 3, third strategy is exercise. And many women are trying to exercise their way into fat loss. Exercise is for the brain, the cardiovascular system, and your muscles. It is not for fat loss. Okay, I really want to get that clear. Most women are out there doing HIIT, spin, yoga, group classes, Zumba, you can name it. And exercise is phenomenal. I love exercise, but it's not designed to help you lose fat. That's what nutrition is for. And unfortunately, exercise does very little in terms of promoting weight loss, especially when there's not a focus on nutrition and lifestyle. In addition to that, calories burned during exercise are not additive. Okay, let me explain that. If you burn 2,000 calories a day as your baseline, and you go and do exercise that burns 200 calories, we would assume that means 2,000 plus 200 calories. I now burned 2,200 calories, right? That's wrong. Unfortunately, our bodies don't work that way. Exercise isn't additive to the amount of calories that we burn in a day, because as you increase the amount of energy spend, calories through exercise, your body actually decreases energy spend in other areas. You'll move less throughout the day. You'll fidget less. You'll spend less energy on digestion and things like that. And so we actually only burn like 2,100. Right? It's not additive to that, right? You'll start to see other things fall off that contribute to your daily calorie burn. And so people end up overestimating, right? And the truth is, we are terrible at estimating how many calories we burn. There's actually a study done that had a group of people exercise, and then they had them estimate how many, and they had all these monitors on them, and they had them exercise, and they had them estimate how many calories that they burned in the exercise. And they were off by 500 calories in the wrong direction. So they thought they burned 500 calories more than they did. It's pretty bad. And then they had they had the control group, and they had the group that was estimating. And then they had those people, track their food throughout the day or estimate their food throughout the day. And they estimated that they consumed 500 less calories than they actually consumed. So they burned 500 less than they thought, and they consumed 500 more than they thought. That's 1,000 calorie increment there that we're missing in our estimations of what's going on a daily basis. And that can make weight loss feel impossible. Really, we're just not in the right energy balance. And so we're terrible as humans at estimating this kind of stuff. And so, if we're relying on exercise to create that stimulus, it's not going to work very well. And you're going to be hungrier too, so you're probably going to eat more, right? Okay. Number 4 is eating healthy, right? Eating healthy. Basically just eating a whole foods diet, cutting out the junk, right? A lot of people tell us like, well, I don't do diets. I'm just trying to eat healthy. I'm trying to eat more balanced. The problem is there's no real guidelines around that or direction on how to eat, when to eat, what to eat, right? It just kind of leaves the variables wide open. And a lot of people when they're telling me that they're eating healthy, they're not very consistent with that. And when they go to actually track their food and collect some data around it, they're actually eating a lot less healthy than they think. And I'm not saying that's you. I'm just saying, in my experience from the women that we've coached, that is the case for them. And the last one here is tracking macros. And I think macros are great for the right person. Macros are the most scientific way to lose weight, for sure. Because all that matters for weight loss is energy balance, right? There are so many things that go into energy balance, though. Your hormones, your metabolism, right? All this stuff. And so macros control how much food comes in, which is great because then we can make adjustments, right? Because we actually know the targets that we're shooting for. And we can use kind of the scale as an indicator to know if we're moving in the right direction or not and make adjustments. The problem with macros is it takes time for a lot of people, and a lot of people don't want to weigh and measure their food for the rest of their life, which I get. I don't want to do that either. And so, there's most of the things that people are doing are just unsustainable, right? And I want to try to help you find a more sustainable approach here. As far as critical mistakes that women are making, number one, the number one thing we see is women are trying to eat too little. And what happens is they actually end up eating too much because they're eating too little. And so they eat too little, they eat too little, and then they cave because they're starving and they overeat, right? And whether that be a binge or whether that be snacking throughout the day that's unconscious, they end up consuming more calories, way more calories than they think they are, even though their meals are not very big. A better approach would be to have bigger meals that are more filling, spread throughout the day, that meet your requirements, right? Number two is eliminating food groups, entire food groups, like keto does with carbohydrates. But some people eliminate fats. Some people eliminate proteins, right? And these things were all important. We wouldn't have them if they weren't, right? We wouldn't have them available to us. Our bodies wouldn't deal with them in positive ways if we weren't supposed to be eating them. Are we supposed to be eating processed man-made food? Probably not. But things that come from the ground, things that had eyeballs at once, things that grow on trees or grow from the ground, like, I think we should be eating those things. And that's not, the case for everything. Obviously, there's toxic mushrooms and things like that, so it's not a one-size-fits-all approach, but you get the idea. We want to be eating whole foods and not eliminating entire food groups that we have access to. And because that just makes us feel restricted, and it's not sustainable to do that. Okay. Number three is not eating enough protein to support muscle and a healthy metabolism. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but your metabolism makes up 75% of the calories that you burn in the day. If yours is weak, you're in trouble. And your muscle makes up a large part of the metabolism. So that's the way that we can control it, by building lean muscle. Okay? Number four, not paying attention to your gut health. If you have things like constipation, diarrhea, bloating, gas, those are all signs that something is wrong digestively. And continued over a long period of time, this can have a massive effect on your metabolism, on your hormones, on your immune system, and much more. And metabolically, it can prevent you from losing weight, right? And it make you feel really uncomfortable and not motivated to do things also, right? Add a lot of stress to your life. There's a lot of things that can go wrong with digestive issues that make weight loss harder. So we got to pay attention to our gut, and we got to make sure we're clearing up those issues. Number five, choosing plans that don't fit your lifestyle, right? Like, I see so many people who are I want to get back to where I was in my 20s, and they're 40. It's like you now have a real job, right? In the 20s you did not have a real job of responsibilities. You have 17 kids, I don't know. You're married, like, your life is completely different, and we're trying to do what we were doing in our 20s. It just doesn't make sense. We need to choose a plan that actually fits what our current lifestyle is right now, that can still move us forward in the right direction. But going back to what we were doing in our 20s is probably not going to work. Number six, being unwilling to make changes, right? Unwilling to make changes with things that we consider normal that are not normal. Like, well, I shouldn't say that. They're normal, but they're not healthy, right? Because so many people in America, we're using the general population of America as normal, but America isn't healthy. And so if we're trying to be normal, we're also inherently going to be unhealthy, right? And so we got to figure out how to make those changes to be less normal in a sense, right? How can we reduce stress? How can we improve our sleep? How can we deepen our relationships? Prepare for the week, cook our food, move our bodies, lift weights, right? Like, we have to be willing to make changes around these things and be open to doing them, or else we're going to be stuck. So, that said, where she put the focus instead, our most successful clients focus on hormonal balance and metabolism, and so focusing on those with your nutrition, with your exercise, with your lifestyle, fixes most of the problems that these diets are trying to solve. And if you can eat and live in a way that supports your hormonal balance, you'll never have to worry about weight loss again. It'll be very simple for you, because it takes care of the problems downstream. It's the domino that when you push it over, the other dominoes start to fall, right? But we have to solve that hormonal balance problem for most women who we speak to, because your hormones control your metabolism, and your metabolism controls 70% of what matters for weight loss. So we have to have strong balanced hormones. If we don't, we're setting the foundation on quicksand, right? So for that to happen, you need to go through a comprehensive assessment to identify what the root cause is of the problem in the first place. Because if our hormones are out of balance, whether it be cortisol, whether it be your female hormones, whether it be your thyroid hormones, the reason for that is different for everybody. And we have to identify what that really is, what the real problem is that is causing your hormones to be off, that's causing your metabolism to be weak, that's causing weight loss to be really hard, right? Otherwise, we're just guessing and trying all these unsustainable diets that won't work in the long run, right? It's like we're guessing and then we're checking to see if the scale goes down. And then we try a new diet and we guess and then we check to see if the scale goes down. But the problem is the scale going down does not mean success. The scale going down and staying down means success. And a lot of these things will make the scale go down, but they will also make the scale come back up once you stop them. And so we need an approach that really solves the root problem. And to get to the root problem, we have to know what that problem is. And you need to go through a comprehensive assessment to make that happen. Okay? And so here's what our clients do. Number one, they go through a comprehensive assessment that includes blood work, stool analysis, nutrition documentation, exercise testing, right? Whole shebang. We're getting a full picture of what is actually going on so we can find the root cause of the problem, right? They also focus on a low inflammatory diet that supports hormonal balance, gut health, and metabolism. Very, very important there, okay? On top of that, they follow a specific protocol that is made for them based on their assessment. So once they go through the comprehensive assessment, they have all this data of what is going on internally. We can create a plan and a protocol for them based on that. They follow that protocol, right? That could mean supporting their thyroid. That could mean supporting their adrenals. That could mean fixing their gut health issues. That could mean reducing their stress. It can mean a bunch of different things depending on who the person is, but they follow that specific protocol that's going to solve the root problem, okay? For exercise, they focus on exercise that supports their hormone and metabolism rather than crush them. So they don't, if they are having a stressed out day, they don't go out and do a crazy HIIT workout and crush themselves. It's going to crush your metabolism. They don't train 7 days a week. They take rest days, right? They focus on strength training that's going to promote healthy hormones and walking, getting out in the sun, right? De-stressing. That's what they use for exercise for. And they consistently work on the daily habits of sleep, hydration, time management, stress, self-love. All those things make a really big difference. And in doing so, they get really, really amazing results. Those are the 5 steps that they use. So if you want to start making progress, like our most successful clients do, you can do one of two things. Number one, we have a free ebook that is our 15 hormone balancing foods and recipes guide that I can give you. All you gotta do is comment hormones down below here and I'll send that over to you. Or if you'd like to consider working with us to find out what the root cause of your problem is and start overcoming that so you can lose the weight and keep it off for the rest of your life, then you can shoot me a message, just shoot me a DM and say, hey, I'm ready. Let's talk about how you can help and we'll go from there, okay? I hope this was a helpful training for you guys. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, put them in the comments and I'll get to them and answer all the questions that come through. And I will see you guys next week for our live training next Thursday. I hope this was a good one for you guys. Chat soon.